The Indian Wars were not a single conflict, but a series of wars, battles, and forced campaigns that stretched across North America for more than 2 centuries. From the early colonial period to the end of the 19th century, these wars shaped the expansion of the United States and permanently altered the lives of Native American nations. They were fought over land, power, survival, and the future of an entire continent. When European settlers first arrived in North America, Native American tribes already had complex societies, trade networks, and systems of governance. Early relationships between settlers and tribes were sometimes cooperative, but tension grew as European populations expanded. Land, the foundation of native life, became the central point of conflict. Where settlers saw empty wilderness, Native Americans saw sacred homelands passed down for generations. As colonies grew into a nation, conflict intensified. After the American Revolution, the new United States pushed westward, claiming vast territories. Treaties were signed promising native nations protection and permanent land, but many were quickly broken when settlers demanded more space. The federal government often negotiated treaties it had no intention of honoring, using them as temporary tools rather than lasting agreements. In the early 1800s, U.S. policy shifted toward removal. President Andrew Jackson championed the Indian Removal Act of 1830, which authorized the forced relocation of native tribes east of the Mississippi River. Thousands were driven from their homes to unfamiliar lands in the west, the Trail of Tears, which displaced the Cherokee. Choctaw, Creek, Chickasaw, and Seminole peoples became one of the darkest chapters in American history. Disease, starvation, and exposure killed thousands along the way. As settlers continued west, new conflicts erupted on the Great Plains, in the Southwest, and along the Pacific coast. The Plains tribes such as the Lakota, Cheyenne, Comanche, and Apache depended on the buffalo for survival. Railroad construction, mining, and mass hunting destroyed the buffalo herds, threatening native life itself. Resistance became a matter of survival, not rebellion. The U.S. Army was tasked with enforcing federal policy. Forts were built across native lands, and military campaigns sought to confine tribes to reservations. Battles such as Sand Creek, Little Bighorn, and Wounded Knee became symbols of the Indian Wars. While some native leaders achieved temporary victories, the overwhelming resources of the U.S. government eventually crushed resistance. One of the most famous moments came in 1876 at the Battle of the Little Bighorn, where Lakota and Cheyenne warriors defeated General George Custer's forces. The victory shocked the nation but sealed the fate of the Plains tribes. Public outrage led to intensified military campaigns that forced tribes onto reservations within a few years. Life on reservations brought new hardships. Promised food and supplies were often delayed or stolen. Traditional hunting and movement were banned. Children were sent to boarding schools where their languages and cultures were suppressed. The goal shifted from removal to assimilation, erasing native identity to fit American society. The Indian Wars officially ended in 1890 with the massacre at Wounded Knee. U.S. troops killed hundreds of Lakota men, women, and children during an attempted disarmament. The event symbolized the final collapse of armed native resistance. It was not a battle, it was an execution that marked the tragic conclusion of centuries of conflict. The consequences of the Indian Wars remain today. Native American nations lost millions of acres of land, suffered population collapse, and endured cultural destruction. Yet they survived. Despite relentless pressure, Native communities preserved traditions, languages, and identities that continue into the present. Understanding the Indian Wars requires rejecting myths of heroic conquest. These wars were not inevitable clashes between civilization and savagery. They were the result of deliberate policies, broken promises, and economic ambition. Expansion came at a human cost that cannot be ignored. The Indian Wars shaped the United States into a continental power, but they also left a legacy of injustice. To explain them honestly is to recognize that American growth was built not only on opportunity, but on displacement, suffering, and resistance. Only by facing this history can its true meaning be understood.